Today we are going to be discussing Claris Studio, this new and exciting approach to many things. And I know I have a lot to learn. Starting is going to be Steve Sikora, our president. And so Steve, why don't you take it away?
All right, welcome everybody. We got a few people local that you can't see, and they're going to get to enjoy some great barbecue, and a few people remote who we're going to try to make jealous. So it's great to have you all here. My name is Steve Sikora, and we're going to talk about Claris Studio, kind of partner to partner here. And you know, the first thing I want to point out is we rebranded 2 or 3 years ago, just as FileMaker was rebranding to Claris. We rebranded to Harmonic Software Production Studios, and now they're coming out with a product called Claris Studio. And I don't think that's a coincidence. I think that I think they're really following in our footsteps here. All right, so why are we here? We are here, and let me kind of rearrange. I'm gonna, for the folks in our room, I'm gonna remove the videos. We're here to talk about the new and the next. I always used one of my favorite parts of going to FileMaker DevCon and you know, Engage was getting that glimpse of what's coming, or you know, what people have been working on to make our lives better. And it was always kind of a bittersweet moment, right? Because you're like, oh, that's awesome, I'm so excited. And then they would say, yeah, I mean, but we're not sure when we're going to release it. And you're like, I need that now. And really, we're in the same situation here, right? What we're looking at are things that they've been baking for a long time, and things that I think in our discussion we're going to decide probably need some more baking. But there's some really good stuff in here, and I think some interesting questions and ponderings. So, you know, we're here to talk about the new and the next. This isn't something we're going to be able to take advantage of today. But it's something I think we'll get to take advantage of pretty soon, and at least in some use cases. So our task, this isn't Claris's exact verbiage, but this is pretty much what they told us to do. Sorry, it skipped right on by that because of how I had my slides set up. I'm going to do it one more time. Our task is to have a partner-to-partner discussion. They specifically said, this is not a business-facing discussion, right? This is not us to a client having this conversation. This is partner-to-partner, developer-to-developer level conversation that they want people to have, and they want to provide insight to. And that's because they're in this interesting point where they're just getting ready to roll it out. They don't honestly have enough licenses or bandwidth or willingness to be exposed. You know, take your poison on what the version is, but they're not able to provide every single partner worldwide with access to Claris Studio yet, right? So this is kind of a first step of, well, how do we get it into the wild a little bit and let people play with it, kind of, right? So that's what we're here to do today. To get us rolling, though, I want to talk about, from Harmonic's perspective, I want to talk about our realignment that we've done internally, and I think it's going to make sense why in a couple minutes. And this won't take long, but this is just some context of how we look at the world. And a few years ago, back when Harmonic was expressly Harmonic Data Associates, Inc., period, which was our original name, incorporated back in 2004, we felt like the world existed in kind of these two bubbles, FileMaker and complementary technology, right? And you can see which one was more important there. It's clearly FileMaker, because all the other stuff was meant to complement FileMaker, and that goes way back where we were using, you know, Perl scripting, and then PHP and APIs and integrations and all kinds of stuff. So this was our worldview for a long time. And Harmonic has long been about putting FileMaker together with other things to do cool stuff. And over time, those complementary technologies became other technologies that we spent a lot of time and energy building, and they became as important to us as FileMaker. FileMaker continued to evolve. We also were doing all this kind of other stuff. So how does that fit within our model? And so what we decided to do is have a hamburger for lunch and think about it. And the hamburger inspired us to come up with some teams that look like this. So we've got business practices, we've got low code technologies. We decided to just go with that once FileMaker and then Claris decided they couldn't really get workforce innovation platform to stick, and they were just going to say, well, we're in the low code space. Well, we might as well go with that as well, low code technologies. We did a lot of design and documentation, but we didn't explicitly call it out. So we added a team for that. And then in addition,
okay? You're snorting.
we had app technologies. And app technologies is that kind of bubble of other technologies that we added a lot of staff, a lot of skills, and a lot of work against. And then to help support it all, managed services. So our company looks like this right now. We're 5 teams. And of course, FileMaker sits in that low code technologies bubble. We do sales and consulting with business practices. Design and documentation is things like QA and design, obviously. PHP, React, MySQL, other databases, NoSQL on the app tech side. And then under managed services, resale and installation and hosting and licensing, things like that, right? So that has some interesting relevance, I think, with where Claris is going with their studio product. And so when a project comes in, got my slides out of order. And so today I'm about to quit talking here because mostly this is not a conversation about getting new business and sales and things like that. I don't think we know enough yet about Claris Studio to have that discussion. But what we are going to do is get some other smart people up here and look at Claris Studio from the perspective of these other groups. We got a couple guys in low code, Paul Mitchell and Rob Trammell, who've been working on it. We've got Eric Clark in design and documentation, who's going to talk to us about it. We've got Anthony Wynn in app technologies. And then we've got Fred Craven, who helps out in our managed services and licensing, AWS setup, and so forth, who's going to discuss it from a licensing and ID, user ID perspective, right? So one more thing from my end before we get rolling on that. This is the way we feel like business works at Harmonic. And I think this is probably stating the obvious for most people, whether you're a single person shop, an in-house shop, or a consultancy with multiple people like us. The issue starts, the opportunity starts at the business level, right? What is the challenge? What is the opportunity, right? So it comes in at the business level. Then you've got to design for it. You've got to figure out what you're going to do, identify the opportunity, identify what the users need. At that point, we can start coding it. Sometimes that's low code. Sometimes it's complementary or other or app technologies, depending on your type of work. Maybe it's PHP, maybe it's XML, maybe it's APIs. Once that gets built, you got to figure out how to support and deploy it. So you're probably doing some QA, some integration testing, figuring out how to roll it up. If you're in-house, maybe you're working with IT to get it deployed on your servers. And then once it's deployed, it needs to go back out with documentation to the customer, right? And I think Claris Studio is starting to give us some insights on how that process is going to work, how it's going to work. And it's a little different than what we've had with our FileMaker tool set in the past. It's not the same animal, and it's not the same opportunities, but there's exciting stuff there. So with that, I'm going to stop sharing my screen, And I'm going to hand it off to my team to actually look at the real deal for us. And Paul advises me that that is Fred next.
That's
So,
correct. All right. My part of this is going to be quite simple and straightforward. If I can find my share your screen option, I only have a couple things really to share. Let's choose the correct screen. And I hit the share button. Marvelous. Okay. When we started this with the circle of life, there's something you need to be aware of, that Claris now has 3 different licenses or IDs that you need to be aware of. One's your FileMaker license. That's a thing. If you do the problem solver circle, it's a completely different license. The old license will expire. Get the new one. 2, there's the Claris ID. Now, some of us are familiar with this because we beta tested Cloud, or you've done stuff with Cloud where you have Claris IDs and you're logging into it, and it's used with Connect. That's important. 3, why is there 3? There is a Studio ID. Now, this is the big catch. The Claris Studio ID and your Claris ID are 2 separate and distinct things. They can be the same ID. Let me show you something over here on my other little screen here. All right, so this is console.claris.com. And if you come in here, this is your Claris ID area. And you can have yourself with multiple clients that you're using, Connect or Cloud. And as you can see in this example, I have our Harmonic Software Production Studio and one of our clients, Nickels and Dimes. So I can access both of these items here. However, if you go to Studio, it is not the same thing. With Studio, you must have, and I went back and forth with Claris about this, you must have a unique email address for each and every studio that you have. So let's say you have 3 clients. You will need 3 different email addresses. And I know what you're thinking. Gmail has a way of putting a little plus, and then you can put something after it, and it should just work. Except it doesn't. Claris rejects it. So you have to have a unique ID. You'll have to make new aliases to do that. Speaking of aliases, when you get a client set up with Claris Studio, Claris is going to send the licensing to these, the named person on the license. So in this case, for our clients, Nickels and Dimes, that's the owner of Nickels and Dimes. Now they like us, we like them. They hired us to do this work for them. I was all ready to do all the things, and Claris simply could not send me the link to get everything set up. So our client had to become directly involved. This is just something for you to be aware of. I mean, really, it's just a matter of a couple of emails, and I'm going to show you somewhat what happens. But there's a couple of emails that they will get, and if they're not expecting it, they won't know that they've gotten 1, new licensing for the FileMaker, 2, a Claris Connect license link, 3, the Studio link. They won't know this stuff has come through to them because they'll think we're taking care of it. So you have to work with your client. Speaking of working with the client, I'm going to look at my screen here. Here is this Claris Connect. We're not talking about that today. But this is for platform.claris.com. And here, I'm going to enter in my name, my password. And it's going to look remarkably like the regular Claris interface. But this is the front end of Studio. And if you take a look here, you'll see Ron. And Ron was the licensee. So Ron got the license. And so what I had to do to work with this, and for developers out there, this works. He sent me the link. I logged in as him. In the process for Studio, it sends him an email, which he then needs to click on to confirm. For Connect, it sends him a code, which you have to get to make sure everything's working here. So there's Ron. And once I got Ron in there, I added myself. And if we wanted to add a new user, I could come over here and I could try to add Paul Mitchell, and I just wanted to show you all this plus this is an example of trying to use that little plus thing, and it fails. So, but if I added another email address, a normal email address, I could add somebody to the team now, and that will, it'll work successfully here. So I'm going to pull up one last little thing here, if I can find it. It's like I'm trying to show my desktop pictures to you all. All right. So if you just go to the the platform or Claris console.claris.com, you'll see something like this. It won't let you sign in unless you've had an invitation. And moving the picture over here, this is what it looks like when you go to Studio. You'll do a little, this is for Connect. You'll get a login Connect text for verification code, just kind of your normal emails that you would expect to see, and everybody's happy. That was me logging in to Connect, but not Studio. Here we go. You saw what I did earlier. Studio, there's your sign in. When your client does this, it will just work with their email address, except you have to get the response back. So just a few little screenshots there, and that is pretty much what I have to show here today. So Paul, I think we're going to hand it off to you now.
Hey, Fred, before you go,
yeah,
can you put your screen share back again and go to that Claris Studio thing again?
Yeah, just a moment here.
The Claris Studio console. This is very much, I'm going to put you on the spot. This is very much in the interest of all of us learning together. But let's try the plus thing a different way. So
all right,
do invite new user, and we could just use my email, for instance, as an example. So let's do Steve. Nope. Well, yeah, go ahead and type out my normal email address. So harmonic-data.com. And you put my name in, full name, Steve Sikora. But before you click send, don't put the plus at the end. Put Steve plus NAD before the @ sign.
All right, I didn't try this yesterday. Let's see how that works.
Yeah, so they will accept that. So that's how we're thinking. That's how we're thinking you could potentially do this with G Suite or with 365. Microsoft 365 is supporting this. I think we found as of April or something, like as of very recently. And we should be able to have it work. Now, I checking my email right now, and I don't yet have an email inviting me, but that's how we were thinking the plus might work.
Yeah, that is different from what we tested. So now Paul's sitting right there, so he's going to do a demo, and I'll just add him here as well. And well, hopefully that works out, because creating unique email addresses is a pain.
And yes, I have it.
So Paul, once you get on your screen, why don't you follow up with that and show us what it looks like when you log in as P. Mitchell. You'll notice for people, let me see if I can, oh, come on, zoom in. For people looking at this here, I had to add Paul. This is one of his clients here. I had to add him as Paul because on the Claris beta site, he is P. Mitchell. So it had to be unique for each space, but now this went. So I'm excited.
Okay. Well, why don't I take up from there? And so Fred, if you will, yeah, there we go. And share your screen, I will share mine.
And I did get mine as well, Paul.
All right.
Done that way. So I do think that's a possibility.
Right. So let's take a quick look at my email.
Paul, you want to show your pretty face?
I thought well, okay, yeah.
Yeah, I think it was at the very top there.
Yeah, review.
There we go. And yes, sharing my screen. Good. All right. So yes, I've got this lovely email invitation to join Claris Studio, and it is addressed to P Mitchell plus NAD at harmonic-data.com. So then I can just join.
Yeah. So
What are you saying, Anthony?
you have to log out of P-Mitchell.
Yeah, so do you have it open in the browser already?
Yeah,
And
you
so
do have to
Claris,
log out.
It's automatically logging you in as.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. So
There we
sign
are.
out there.
There we are.
Click the link again.
Now I can sign it as P Mitchell plus NAD.
I think you don't have an account yet. You have to sign up. It gives you an invite addressed to that email, but you don't actually have an account yet. Yeah,
Okay, so now we've got another email address, another email.
This is all so
There it
new
is.
that we're
Great.
ready to go.
My link, and I've been confirmed. All right, so that should mean that I can come back here, hit continue, sign in yet again. Fortunately, my browser stored that for me. Yep, there's the conditions, terms, going back to the Air Force, whatever it is. All right. And there I am in the list. Huzzah.
Huzzah.
Okay. So I dare say they're going to clean some of this up, but this is how it looks now. So from here, I can see everybody on my team, create forms. We can hit the downloads and get Claris Pro, which we'll talk about more soon, or go to the customer console. So here are all the forms we've created on this team, and here are all the team members. But to show you how to get in and create a form, we're going to bring up my colleague Rob Trammell, who's a technician on the low-code team, and he's going to walk you through introduce you to the new Claris software, Claris Studio. Go ahead and bring your laptop. Or just want to use this? Right. Yeah.
Can you give us like a quick overview of NAD and why we're using their account and what we're looking at?
So
with the problem solver circle.
We're using our client NAD because they are in the problem solver circle, which is something that a program that Claris has begun. And what it does is it gives a client who might be expanding their use of the Claris platform the opportunity to get experience with Claris Studio, Claris Connect, and all the Claris products. And so the attraction there is it's a free 2-year upgrade to a site license that gives you access to what's now going to be called Claris Server, Claris Pro, Claris Connect, all the Claris products all together. And so this is a client that we're working with. They are looking to expand their use. We're working on a new project for them right now. It's about to roll out, and there's several more behind that. So this is something that we've set up for them, and it was a huge benefit to the client, we think, and no expense. So they were just on the verge of buying a whole bunch of new licenses, and this allows them to postpone that purchase for 2 years by getting literally a free upgrade to site license. At the end of the 2 years, there'll be an evaluation of what their real needs are, and then they can just purchase what they actually need at the time.
And I just
So
wanted
now we're
to
going to bring
throw in,
Rob.
Paul,
Go ahead.
I just want to throw in there, this was really quite awesome for this client because they were on life support with just 5 licenses where they had a site license before that of a decent size, or a number of licenses of a decent size. They're now at a 450 user site license at basically 30% above the price for 5 licenses. So it's a great development opportunity for them and a great place to grow. Of course, at the end of 2 years, if they need 450 users, that's when they can consider it. All right, that's it. I just want to throw that in there.
And you caught me there, Fred. I did misspeak. It's not a free upgrade, but it's a significantly discounted one.
A
So,
significantly
Rob,
discounted.
come on over and we'll get. So I'm going to discontinue sharing my screen, and Rob is going to start. Oh, had I discontinued?
Cancel.
Someone.
You're already
You're
on.
Okay.
not sharing.
Great.
Yeah.
Okay, so the audio is here.
Okay, I'm just gonna use your computer.
Let's share your screen.
Okay. I meant out.
still sharing my screen there.
Oh, I'm still.
It kicked me out of the. It kicked me out of the meeting.
Are you going to keep me out? Good.
Rob, you are still there present.
That's great. All right, we're done. Sorry, everybody. Yeah. Well, I'm just gonna use yours.
Okay.
Okay, so
Go ahead and sign in the other place that would you?
And you will need to share the screen again.
yeah. All right, so we're gonna sign into the sandbox. Spelled right. Wait.
There we go.
Okay, so this is Claris Studio. So for this demo, we are going to just create a form for registering for this class, so to speak. So let's say there's a seminar you want to do, and you need a way to capture a lot of data from people who are not regular users of your company. So you come here, you click create a new form. For the purposes of our sandbox, we have to name it, name it something relevant. So we'll say seminar demo. And this little part up here was not obvious. It was not obvious that this is where we needed to change the name. So we're gonna add a workflow. And automatically it gives you just a registration page and a confirmation. So you can come in here and say, actually, we're going to call it Paul and Rob's seminar. And for the title, you can change colors here. You can put an image in. I'm sure a lot of you have seen this, but oh, right.
Nothing on my desktop.
This is Paul's computer. Okay, so nothing to add there, but so adding fields, let's say we'd like a phone number. They already kind of have a field for you, and it will, well, when you start entering data, it will automatically format it and everything. If you want some fields to be required, you click the little gear, click required. For this one, we are going to want a sessions checkbox. So this is one of the, thank you. This is one of the the shortcomings of the forms is that there isn't currently a way to feed value list into the form. So we still have to manually type these out. So we're going to say we have layouts, tables, and fields. Calculations, relationships, scripting, and security.
I didn't realize a return would create a new one. I was hitting that plus button.
That's good. And let's also pick up an address. So there we go. So for addresses, it gives you the same thing. It adds all the fields for you. It formats it. You get all the drop downs and things. So this is.
How easy is it to rearrange things?
Oh, it's drag and drop. So you could just drag things around, put them where you need to, and also the other way to add objects is in the top left up here. You can actually come up here and add images or text blocks or whatever you want, in case your mouse hovering skills aren't so precise that you can, create this little green plus button. You can just get it from the drop down up here. So I think this looks good. Confirmation, we'll try to make it look consistent. There are some editing capabilities, but you can't, for instance, you can't like resize things with your keyboard. So you kind of have to, or with your mouse by dragging and dropping. So you kind of have to fake it a little bit. You have to use the text. Like I'm just entering carriage returns. You know what? I don't like that. We'll call it Harmonic Demo. I'm gonna keep changing the name. I'm sorry, guys. Okay, we're done with it. We're done with it this time. Okay, so that's that. And when you're,
Where does the data show up?
Thank you, Paul. So if you are wanting to manage the data without some kind of a FileMaker solution, if you just want to come see it, this would be where you would do it. Now, for the sake of connecting the data to FileMaker later, which is what Paul is going to show us, this name here on the data view is actually the data source name. So when you're looking for, when you're looking to add the source connection, this is what you're going to see. So I'm going to name it something that Paul can easily reference. Paul, Harmonic Demo Source. Yep. So when you're ready to share it, you'd click share, and then copy the link.
It's an emergency that we should share this.
Yeah. You copy the link and then you send it in an email to whoever wanted to get it. And at this point, I'm gonna.
So you can go ahead and
send
put
it
that into the comments section and make sure it's going out to everyone.
So the other tab on the browser.
Okay.
And just put it in the
down here
in the chat. Yeah.
Okay. So as we go through this, if you guys want to, actually, we would encourage you to click on this link and fill out that form.
So we will have test data to show you.
Yes,
in just a few minutes.
Yes. So that's basically Claris forms, and I think Paul will show you the rest. What's that?
Oh, I was gonna ask to see the actual form that we can see with that link.
Preview button.
Okay, so there's a, well, shoot, give me a second here.
There's a return button up at the upper right.
Return, thanks. We want to go to the first page. Come on. So we're going to preview this whole thing, and they give you a responsiveness thing in the upper right, so you can see what it's going to look like on mobile or a tablet, or just a laptop. So you can kind of test what it's going to look like before you deploy it. Okay.
I'll go ahead and Slack that link to you from my Slack.
I just sent it to everybody.
Oh, great.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks. All right. And we realize it's just kind of a very simple demonstration of how to create a form. Obviously, we had a lot more questions too. So if you have questions, please save them to the end, and we will all discover the answers together.
Hey, Paul.
Okay.
Paul,
Yes.
just a question. In my web browser, the form and the confirmation page sort of show up inverted. I don't know if that's because I'm in dark mode, but I would show you a screenshot if you want me to somehow send that to you.
Yeah, Dennis, I answered that yesterday.
Let me
It
just
looks
stop sharing the screen. What's
Oh,
that, friend?
you want me
It
to-
does look strange in dark mode. I've got the same thing. You need to be careful of the, Claris hasn't quite figured out what to do with dark mode.
That's
So
good.
like the purple looks like it's like a light blue with white lettering on top of it. So it's not making the appropriate adjustments.
Exactly. That's what I see.
I didn't want to stop sharing that.
Oh, sorry. I thought that's what you.
Dennis, do you want to show that to us? You want to share your screen and show that to us? Dennis?
I was muted. I'm doing it for you now.
Cool.
You should see it now, I think.
Yeah,
Right.
it is trying to be responsive to dark mode. Yeah,
Interesting.
well, there you go.
I did submit the form, so you'll see it.
Cool.
Should I turn it off now?
Yeah, go ahead, and we will resume the rest of the presentation. I think next we have our App Tech Director, Anthony Wynn. Is that right?
Yep.
Yeah, okay. Anthony, you gonna talk and share my screen, or?
Just talk.
Okay, well. Come show your smiling face over here. Everybody's ready, please go ahead and hit that link that Eric put in Slack and give us some test data to work with in my demo.
Who am I looking at now?
We are looking at Dennis.
So there we go. Thank you for showing off the forms, the form builder, Rob. I'm, like Paul said, Anthony Wynn, Director of App Tech. So I'm pretty excited for Claris Studio. One of the things that we do on the App Tech team is create ways for different external non-FileMaker users to interact with FileMaker data. That includes building things like web forms. Historically, we've had to build them out using other things like PHP or React. And so what Claris has been really focused on the last few years is streamlining a lot of the kind of annoying busy work. So a few years ago, they released Connect, which takes care of some integrations with external services. And now they're giving us a taste of Claris Studio, which streamlines the process of building out forms and sending data to FileMaker. So I challenged myself to kind of go through Harmonic's past projects and kind of pick out what projects would Claris Studios, what projects Claris Studio would be a fit for, or rather, what projects something like Claris Studio would be good for, and whether or not Claris Studio as it exists right now would be a good platform for it. So kind of one of the projects that I had worked on was similar to what Rob had built in Claris Studio, which was a registration form RSVP system. So one of our clients had a need to, one of our clients had events that they would host year round, and they needed a system to be able to manage those events and RSVP people. So their workflow looked a little bit like in FileMaker, they would enter in information about each of the events, create contacts for each event, and also create forms for each event. Now, each form had different questions based off of what type of event it was. And once everything was done, everything was set up, they would click a button, it would send out an email containing a form link and a registration code that was tied to each of the contact and each of the events. And then on the contact side, they would receive the email. They'd click on the link, and what they'd get is a way to enter in that registration token. Putting in the token would have the web page fetch the questions from FileMaker based off of that token. And then the contact would be able to fill out the form. And once they've submitted the form, we would send out a confirmation email with some extra details, and we would create a record in a FileMaker table with what they submitted on the form. So with Claris Studio, I think right now with what they've kind of shown us, it's pretty limited in scope and functionality, and purposefully so. They're definitely have communicated to us that their intention is to release something that is solid initially with a limited feature set, and that they're listening to the community to help them grow Claris Studio as a platform. So I think we can get most of the way there with replacing the form piece of that project. We can definitely create a form whose workflow looks something like, on the first page, we give a way to enter the registration token. The next page would be all the questions that the contact would fill out, and then they would be able to submit the form, And that data would automatically be available to FileMaker, which is pretty nice. What I think, well, what I personally feel is missing to be able to wholly replace that system would be things like the ability to create custom validations. So for entering the registration token, for example, I would like to be able to make a call to validate whether or not that token exists within our system. Just don't want people to copy paste the token in wrong and then not have that submission associated to their contact record, or just enter in any random token and we wouldn't be able to really do anything with that submission. Another thing I feel like is sort of missing is the ability to kind of add either conditional workflows, so presenting different pages based on what we've entered in a previous page, or conditional visibility on fields. So like if we choose other in a list, for example, I would like to conditionally show a text box so that they can enter in what exactly other was. And then I think the last big thing is that I think would be really nice, and I believe that they're working on, is integration with webhooks and Claris Connect. So definitely we kind of saw the ability to kind of order different pages in the form, but it would be nice to also be able to hit the plus button and say, this is going to be a webhook, or this is going to be Claris Connect integration. So you fill out one page and then the next thing would be send an email out through Claris Connect. So I feel like, as a baseline, what they have right in Studio right now would easily facilitate that kind of workflow. It's just about kind of building out that functionality to get to that point. Definitely, Studio as it exists right now would be pretty good for just surveys and anonymous data gathering, that sort of thing, because it makes it really easy to add in fields, have those fields validated properly. Rob gave an example with that phone number field, where it does validate that you have the right amount of digits in that phone number field. So I'm pretty excited for them to kind of flesh out Claris Studio more, add more features, add more integrations to different things, because the very tedious part of my job is kind of building out very simple forms, making sure that data is validated properly, and building out the connection between each of the web forms and FileMaker. So I'm interested in y'all's thoughts on what all you could do with Claris Studio as it exists right now, but also interested in what you would like in Claris Studio going into the future. And yeah, that's it for me.
Okay, did you want to do next, or do you want to just a summation at the end?
I was going to go next.
Okay.
All right. So Eric, Director of D&D, is next.
Okay. Let's see, I'm going to share my screen. Great. So ignore this right now. I'm about to talk about it. Pardon the voice. I don't normally sound like this. So as Director of Design and Documentation, I thought about what current or past projects do we have where Claris Studio might have been or might be useful. And currently we are in development of a native app for one of our clients. And so as that has been internally in testing, but also been to our client for their own internal testing, we've wanted to be able to track various bugs that we find along the way, because even the best of us still produce bugs. So I originally threw together this FileMaker file to track the bugs as we were discovering them. And then Matt says, hey, we need a way for the customer to input bugs. And so I was like, well, we could do a shared spreadsheet, but let's not do that. So I built a little mechanism using WebDirect. So I want to show you that just to you can kind of see what I'm talking about. And let's count the number of layouts that I had to build, right? Because I essentially wanted to give them a form where they could fill out a list of things and then we could see them. But they need to go to this link as an anonymous user and just give us information. So here's layout number 1, where they fill out, I don't know, hopefully they would give us something more helpful than phone. So there's layout 1. This is a current list of all the bugs that we think we fixed that we're asking the users to confirm. So layout number 2, report issue, layout number 3. So they can fill out some basic information, and then it gets added to the list. So those are 3 layouts that I had to create on top of this script that I wrote, which manages all of that WebDirect stuff, is like 200 lines long of making sure they get to the right place. And there's some stuff in here, let's see, on window management. When I open that card window, making sure that that opens in the right size and looks good. From a security standpoint, making sure that they are navigated to the correct place and can't get accidentally dropped somewhere where they shouldn't be, making sure that they can't see data that they shouldn't, all of that stuff. In addition to, we had to figure out where we were going to host this so they could access it via WebDirect. So we had to put it on one of our servers. Well, conveniently, we had servers that were open to the public that we could do this for, but it sure would have been nice to not have to worry about the hosting at all and just post it somewhere on somebody else's server, knowing that it's not connected to our cloud at all. It's not connected to our databases at all. Just from a security perspective, that's kind of what would have been nice. So, I mean, the amount of time that it took me to put this together was, I don't know, maybe 2 hours or so. But you saw how quickly Rob created that form. It was like 5 minutes. So for this active project that we're doing, I think Claris Studio, had we had it at the time, would have been really great. I will call out one thing that Claris Studio currently cannot do that this is doing, which is this list of things here. So this is basically showing all of the prior submissions that anybody has submitted. So that way, users, as they're testing, they can come in here and say, okay, this first issue, I ended a shift without selecting any supported activities. Don't worry about what any of that means. So that was an issue. we believe that we've fixed it. We've tested and verified that it's fixed, but we want the user to go through this list and say, yes, I have verified that on my device, running my version of the operating system, running my version of the app, that this thing works. With Claris Studio, there's currently not a way to show them any data. They can just submit data. So that's one thing that might be nice to have that extensibility somewhere in the workflow. And with that, I'll hand it back to Paul.
Thank you, Eric. Let me start by expressing my enthusiastic agreement with what Eric just said. The lack of two-way communication in Claris Studio is easily the most difficult obstacle. I recently had about 2 years ago, started with a new client, and they were a COVID testing lab. And so I ended up building them a very fairly sophisticated web direct interface for people to come in, accession themselves, and set an appointment. If they could get information back through, from a database back end into the form, we would be able to do something like this much easier with Claris Connect, Claris Studio. But now I'm going to show you another Claris product, which is a very familiar one to you. It's FileMaker Pro, but it's been renamed Claris Pro. So we will show my screen again and share that. And come back over to this tab.
Hey, Paul, I'm not seeing anything right now.
It says I'm sharing the screen, but my screen right now is a big picture of me. How about now?
Anybody else in the FMPUG community who's not here? Seeing him? I'm not.
Yeah, my screen is also mainly black.
Oh, that's not right. Stop sharing and start sharing again. Take that, share. Is that any better?
No, it's same thing. Taylor, is there anything that you can recommend?
He needs to make sure when he's selecting which window or screen he wants to share that he's getting one that's the active one that he wants. He's probably selecting a window or something that's.
No, I can choose a window. I can choose the entire screen. That's what I'm choosing. And I'm hitting share.
Well, you might have multiple screens or maybe a screen that you don't think is connected right now. Which screen are you selected? It should have a preview of the screen that you're selecting on.
I'm going to put my.
Select a different screen or window just to see if that's the issue.
So that's
you'd be able to see what's going on here, Paul.
okay. Now I can't see. Wow, that's awful. Okay.
It's the air. Super dry air.
Let me try this.
Thinking you manage that. It's like,
Started screen sharing, double click, enter full screen mode. Now I see Dennis's smiling face. All right. So I'm going to get out of this meeting for just a second and then dial back into it, if I may. So excuse me, I'll be right back.
Of course, we're all experiencing this because we're all technologically minded.
don't hit the button.
There we go. Now I'm going to try again to share my screen.
We're watching.
We can see
visual
the real Fred, RTV Fred, the camera Fred.
Get everything out of the way.
So is this better?
Yes.
Excellent.
Now we got you.
Here we go. So I think it was probably the network connection. Okay, so we got me on a what?
You want to turn your handsome mug back on.
Oh, well, very well. People want to see my handsome mug. All right. There goes Fred. Okay, cool. I was getting seasick there. All right. So here is the form that Rob created. Let's take a quick look at all the test. Oh, wow, look at all this test data. This is awesome. Check this out. So I just want to take just a moment here and show you that we can do finds. Of course, here it's called filtering and sorts and all kinds of things like that. Oh, don't give me that. There. Spelled Taylor's name wrong.
Sensitive on the filter.
It's right. This filter is case sensitive. See like that? We can add other filters if we want to, or just clear them.
The filters are case sensitive, the search is not.
So we can create groups. We can group our data, for instance, by city, perhaps, and apply that. And now it looks like we got somebody in Washington, somebody in Commerce City, somebody in Duncanville, et cetera, et cetera. And we can sort the data as we choose. So we can manipulate this data a little bit. It's not bad. But now I want to show you how we can actually do stuff with it. So Claris Pro is the new version of FileMaker, and don't give me that.
Of course.
Here it comes. Notice up here in the upper left, Claris Pro. Now, if I come here and do about Claris Pro, it's FileMaker 20. Now, as I understand it, FileMaker 19.5, 0.6, 0.7, 0.8 is going to be a thing for a long, long time to come. But FileMaker 20 is also a thing. As they update one, they'll update the other. But there's a thing that Claris Pro has that FileMaker Pro doesn't, and I'll show you that in just a second. So let me introduce you to my database. It's a very simple database. It has a list of class sessions. It has a list of, it has a place for students, and it has a join table to put the two of them in. Just a quick look at the relationship graph. I got my students join. I got my sessions. This doesn't just look like the FileMaker developer certification test now. I'm not going to start asking you questions about this. But I've just got a couple of tables here, students, sessions, and sessions join. But my students table is empty. So, you know, back in the old days, we'd take an iPad and say, here, fill this out. And somebody would actually have to fill it out and wait in line to get the iPad and so forth. But with Claris Studio, we now spent 5 minutes creating a form. Now, how hard is it to connect that to a FileMaker database? So I keep saying FileMaker. I'm going to try to learn to say Claris Pro, but I'm going to use them interchangeably in this talk. So to add that Claris Studio form, we're just going to go here, and it's just like an ESS table, but here's the new thing in Claris Pro. Claris Pro, that says Claris Studio Data Source. It's on its own little section here. It's marked off by 2 lines. So not just add FileMaker data source, add ODBC data source, and manage data sources. We've got Claris Studio data source, really called out there right at the top of the list. So now we can look at all the different forms that other people have created, because we're playing in a sandbox that pretty much all the Platinum partners have been given access to. So if you look here, you can see something from Lumenfire, something from Goya Data. There's Soliant stuff here. There's Productive Computing. Here's Rocket Bunny. Never heard of them. I bet they're awesome. MC Services, had a friend used to work for them. Starfleet Academy application. Wow, I didn't know they were Platinum partners. All the way down here the list is that new form that Rob made. And thank you, Rob, for putting a unique title on it, because look at all these default names would be very difficult to work with. So you're going to go to that form view and that table view and rename your data source.
So the reason why we're seeing that group of things is because of the studio that we're signed into.
That's correct.
Right?
Yes.
So ostensibly, if I was working with our customer, Nickels and Dimes,
we would only see the one form we've created for that.
We would sign into their studio,
right,
with a different set of credentials, hence the unique email address.
Exactly.
Like we were talking about before, and then we would see their forms from their studio.
That's exactly right. So if we sign into a different studio, we will see the forms on that studio. So if we signed into the NAD studio, there's only one form there, and that's the only one we'd have.
Does that imply, is the sign in per file, or is the sign in for the app, like, does that imply we've got to sign in and sign out of the app?
Yes.
It's for team.
Yes. And under file, there is a re-sign in Claris Studio.
Okay.
Sign in with different name.
Interesting.
While I'm still in managed database, I'm going to come over to that shadow table because it's just an ESS table from, if you work with ESS tables, this is exactly the same. I'm going to create a new shadow field. As I know that you can do. And I'm going to throw in this very familiar old function, record ID. Get record ID, I'm bringing to the foreground it's a little bit of metadata that is stored in the Claris Studio record. For all the different forms in that studio, every record that gets submitted and recorded gets its own unique record ID, all in the same sequence of records. So I expect that when we look at your record IDs, they'll be in the 4,000s or 5,000s because there's just that many records in all of those forms combined. But I have a purpose for that. I do need a unique ID for what I'm going to do. So now that I've created that, I have a layout for it, and it's showing all that data. There's all my form data right here in Claris Pro. And it was just that easy to connect. So now I'm going to show off a little bit. I did some stuff.
And everyone else in the studio has access to the same data.
That's right.
Right.
So you didn't put your real social security number in that, did you,
No.
Heather? Okay, good. All right.
Others make name, everything.
There wasn't a space for your
Sorry.
social security
Hey,
number.
my
All
first
right.
pet, it's all in the
Yeah.
comments
Okay.
section.
So I wrote a script and then I disconnected the form and broke it. And now I'm just reconnecting it again. But as you can see, it's not real hard to do this. Let me get that data source. Here we go. Now I'm moving first name to first name, last name. So basically what I'm doing is I'm importing the form data into my, pardon me while I try and talk and develop at the same time. Inputting the form data into my students table. And just, I know this is everybody's favorite feature in FileMaker, especially to watch. It's better than it used to be. And it's highly entertaining to watch, I know. So this is the highlight of your day.
Remember, Claris got applause at DevCon when they announced this new import screen.
Oh, that's nothing. You should have been there the day they announced when the field definition window was resizable. You were there, weren't you, Heather? Back in 1999, I was at that DevCon in San Diego. So I'm going to, here's my foreign key. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to do an import update so that this will keep me from adding new students. If I re-import the data over and over, it will keep me from adding duplicate students. And I know you know how that works, but this is what I'm using that shadow field for, is to prevent duplicate students being created. Because now, save my script, all I have to do, you remember over here in the student layout, I had 0 records. Now I can run my script and it throws them all. And now I got 16 records. There's Taylor, and I can see the things he signed up for. The script parsed them out into the related records. And you may remember Rob was very careful to spell all these exactly right because there's relationships based on these session titles. But now we see who's presenting these. Eric, did you know you're presenting on calculations today? All right. Oh, Jordan's not even here today. Okay. So probably should have told him. All right. So we can see all our data. If someone were to go in and put in another record, somebody click on that link. Anybody anywhere, click on that link and add another record real quick and sing out when you've done that.
You can also show the plus button on Studio.
Yep. Over here on Studio, I can add another record just even right here. Just add a row and do that. But I know several people are already typing, so I'm going to let them. Susan Calvin, robo-psychologist. I love that. That is so cool. Yes, you can resize these. Yep. usrobotsandmechanicalmen.com. Somebody's a science fiction fan. I love that. That is awesome. So, and okay. So I think,
Richard Wagner there, Dick Wagner, Brunhilde.
yeah, there we go. I'm going to suspect Fred on that one. Okay. So if I run my script again, yep, I got 17 students now. Somebody added Jerry Seinfeld. I love it. He's coming to our session. So let me show you this script real quick because there's a couple of things here. The first thing I do when we go to that layout is refresh the window, flush cached external data. And that makes it check again for more records. And then when I do the import.
Just to drill into that, so if I understand correctly, it's our experience that at the moment, Claris Studio at no point is going to reach out and kind of auto update this.
That's correct.
So, and our thinking is that's probably going to be a webhook through Connect or something that might prompt an update.
Yep.
But at the moment, your option is either in a scripted instance or like maybe a script timer or something.
Yep,
like
you could run that one on, you put that on an on-timer script. You could put that on a if you really want to do it the hard way, you can go to the sync button in Manage Database. That'll get it. But you have to do something to get FileMaker Claris Pro to query the studio record again. We played around with this a little bit. I could put this up on a FileMaker server, and I did put this up on an instance of FileMaker Server 19 in the Amazon cloud, and it worked perfectly when I opened it up in Claris Pro. But I was not able to run this script server side. The server could not be the client and query that studio. It worked perfectly client side, but it wouldn't go work server side. I'm pretty confident that the new version of server, which will be called Claris Server, will do that. But at the present time, while FileMaker Server 19 will open the Claris, will serve the file and actually support everything it needs to be able to see that ESS table, it can't query it operating server side as the client session. That's pretty much what I had to show. Does anybody have any questions? Anything they'd like to explore? I've got 12:29. Taylor, I don't know how much time you want to, additional time you want to spend with this, but I'm happy to be here for as long as we like. Got a whole room of experts here, and I know a bunch more experts out there in the call.
I have a question.
Dennis, what you got?
This is a question for Steve, going way back to the beginning of the presentation. Has Claris seen that diagram, that business model that Steve presented to us?
The hamburger?
No, I don't know that they have. We have not publicly talked about that much yet.
Thank you.
Hey,
No,
Paul,
I don't mean thank you for not sharing it with them. I just mean thank you for answering me.
Steve has lunch with the CEO of Claris on a bi-weekly basis, but he hasn't mentioned that.
Right.
Have they talked prices on any of this yet?
No, they have not talked prices on any of this.
Well, I just signed up. I think it's all the temporary. I don't know if it's a similar thing. I just got a client upgraded their site license. We didn't get Claris Pro, but they got a 25-seat site license, Connect, and Studio for 2 years for $5,000. That was a deal.
This is with the problem solver circle as well, right?
Am I in the problem solver circle now?
I don't know. But, I mean, that sounds like the deal, though.
It does.
Yeah.
So that just ended, supposedly closed that registration for that deal.
Last week.
Last week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the problem.
Yeah.
So check.
I'm new to this.
When you get to your team list, check the downloads tab, and you may find you do have Claris Pro.
Yeah, I think that's where it's hiding.
Okay, I was so excited about this coming because I wanted. This is not at all a threat to us. This is something to make us look better in some ways.
Oh yeah.
Real fast forms that we can hit.
Yeah, I mean, from a business perspective, the way I look at it, this essentially takes the place of a public form generator site, and it gives us, at the moment, one-way traffic into a FileMaker or a Claris Pro solution. Obviously, as soon as they get us a webhook and two-way traffic, it becomes infinitely more useful. But I think the things we're excited about is, like Eric was talking about, how fast you can set it up. You don't have any deployment concerns. You know, a lot of the security stuff and so forth is taken care of. It just works.
But they're all anonymous.
At the moment, totally anonymous.
Yeah. So
Okay, we just lost Paul. All right, so for everybody that's in the treehouse right now, Paul's signal is gone. I see Heather.
You probably tripped over the Ethernet cord.
Yeah, something like that. Heather, could you tell them all that they need to get Paul reconnected?
Hello. How long were we out?
Not too long, Paul. I was there. Yeah, I think there's some, because of the way you're doing it right now with the web page, it probably has a timeout. I wanted to also bring something to ask you about, Paul, is to show the sign-in spot within Claris Pro, where you switch. Okay, now I'm looking at myself. This is strange. Where Inception, man, where you look at the
Self-reflection is healthy for you.
the Studio ID. You'll switch Studio ID. So if we have multiple clients, you're going to have to switch your user with which you're logging in.
Oh, I might have to share my screen to show that. Yeah, okay.
Or just explain it in very precise detail.
So it's exactly what Fred said. File, switch Claris Studio ID.
And then when you pull that up, it shows you what?
It's the option to choose any of the studio IDs that I've already put in. So if I put in that, no, in the past it's remembered. Now I have to remember all my stuff. Oh no. All right.
Right, so if we had P Mitchell plus NAD versus P Mitchell plus Harmonic versus P Mitchell plus, you know, other customer.
All of which are things.
Then, you know, having some kind of format like that you can remember is going to be key for now.
And one of the things we've noticed is that changing that does not mean that this file would stop working.
Interesting.
Because it's going to continue using the credentials that it had when it came in. Then I could open up another file and connect that to the other studio. I have not been able to connect one file to two different studios. That it won't let me do that.
So when you, but when you change studio counts, close this file and open it back up, it will
refresh with a different data, right?
Right. It would not have this connection. I would have to create a different ESS connection in a file. Is that what you wanted to ask?
Yeah, I think that is like, so you could have multiple connections. Like if you were using this for just seminars in general, and you had one that was web seminar, one was live seminar on different forms, then you could just.
If all those forms are in the same studio, I expect I would be able to connect to them all.
Correct.
In fact, I know I would. I did that. But if they're, you know, like presumably each client is only going to have one studio.
Right.
And they could have multiple forms within that studio, as we do in this sandbox, and you can connect the same file to those multiple forms. But then you couldn't connect the same file to another client's form.
But if we had, say, for instance, 3 companies that had 3 different studios, that we had help tickets that went in through this form, like can't log in. You know, we could change the ESS connection in here and use this one file to look at all 3 by switching logins.
I have not been successful trying to do that.
Versus having 3 different FileMaker files, you just change your login is what I was going for.
I hear what you're saying.
It doesn't work even if you name all the forms the same.
I haven't tried that. That's an interesting idea.
Or hack playing.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Can I put some more time on this
Simple
ticket,
for
Steve?
me.
Sir.
Another thing that would be good to address is what you observed yesterday with trying to create a new checkbox list where you ended up with 2. They had to be you don't change your list after the form was created. So explain that a little bit.
So what happened there was we tried to create a new. Well, I think what happened was we wanted to add a page and move a field from one page to the next. And yeah, what did you try to do on that? Did
So
you just try to
what I
drag
did
and drop it,
was
or?
I deleted it here and then I created it on the next page.
Okay.
Because I wasn't able to drag and drop it over.
So we deleted the form and then created it on the next page.
Right.
But when we created that,
When you create the new one, it's actually creating a new field. So it's keeping the.
not even putting it on there. Come on.
You gotta drag it above the
Yeah.
buttons there.
There it is.
So now it's actually created a separate field.
It defaulted to sessions, checkboxes too, but if I rename it to the same name, it doesn't like that. Because in fact, we deleted it off the layout, but it's still there in the form named sessions, and each column has to have its own separate name. And here's the new one I created.
And were you guys able to find a way to kind of get that existing column or select that existing
We
column?
did not find a way to be able to select a pre-existing column to add to a layout.
Seems like something that hopefully is a missing feature that they're working on.
One would hope. Because you're creating a new column every time you add a box to the layout.
Are you able to delete a column? Like
Oh, yes.
Right click or something?
Yeah, as I come up here, I get a little arrow here, and I can do all kinds of stuff. I can sort by this column, customize the field type, hide it, and delete the column.
So could you copy the contents out of the sessions column, paste them into the checkbox 2 column, and then delete the sessions column, and then rename the checkbox 2 column?
I'm sure I could.
That would be the kludgy workaround for now.
Yes. Yes.
So, and then second question to that, how do you stop?
But I'd have to
sharing
do it
the-
record by record to copy and paste that data. There's no way to do a batch replace.
So it sounds like intern work.
So there's
So is there a way to stop sharing the form, like after you've created it?
Oh, wow.
Or just an easy toggle, like say, hey, like we're done with this, conference or class or whatever.
That is not one I know the answer to. That's
you'd have to
that's a
go
new
back
question to
the
me.
home page, the little- And then
I could delete the form.
Straight up delete it.
Yeah, when you're done with it.
Eric, we
Yeah,
were also looking for ways
that's a
to
great
delete-
question, Eric. I hadn't thought of that one.
So what
I don't think you
happens-
can.
What happens to the ESS connection when we delete the form?
It's broken.
It's broken?
Yeah.
Okay. So it doesn't just keep the form there and just hide it from view, basically.
No,
It
there would be a
doesn't
broken
actually
ESS connection. Yeah, and we tried that, and you see data, not available data, and not available on the layout. But of course, we've imported all this data to Claris Pro. So
make sure you import before you delete.
yes, absolutely. Anybody not in the room have a question or a comment?
One of the questions in the chat was, in Claris Pro, when you were selecting the form from the available forms in that data source, are those listed in creation order?
Say that again.
When you were selecting the form in Claris Pro from the
big list.
Yeah, from the big
Yeah.
list.
Yeah, on this list,
In creation order.
yes, and the most recent is on top. However, when you select them in the managed database dialog, it's the most recent is on the bottom.
Creation.
Well, Steve, do you have anything else?
I do
Somebody
not.
typed something in the.
Oh,
chat.
someone typed.
Turning off a form.
Instead of turning off a form, could you create a front page that says the form is closed and have it navigate to any other page? You certainly could not have it navigate to any other page. There's no way to put links or anything like this. That's an interesting question about adding a front page to the form.
Yeah. So it manages all of the buttons at the bottom there.
All the submission status.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess
Previous, next. Yep.
I guess what we could do is basically just delete all the fields off of the page. And because deleting the fields off the page doesn't delete the field from the data.
Or the
Right.
data, as we've seen, right?
Yeah.
Can
So
you add another start page that goes nowhere?
I don't
think
seem
that
able
was the
to.
idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do not seem able to put a new front page on here.
Yeah.
So maybe have a splash page and then click here to go to the database. You know, if that's something you might want to do, I think you'd have to create that at the outset.
Yeah.
That's a great question. Hadn't thought of that one.
And there isn't a significant, or there isn't a way to delete the data in the studio area. You would think that would be something one could do.
There is. You can delete data here.
You can delete the data.
Oh yeah.
So it was a right click. They hijacked the right click.
Yeah.
No, I mean all at once. Can you do all of it?
No, you can't do the whole table, but you can
That's
delete it.
what I was talking about. Yeah.
Well,
But
you
you
can
can't
delete the whole table, but you can't delete the records in the table without deleting.
Correct.
the
Right.
table.
Right. So different. You know, no truncate data.
Right.
can you like shift click on the row number and possibly select multiple?
Nope.
Nope.
Worth a try. Anyone else have a question? Well, Taylor, I think that's all we've got.
Okay, well, thank you everybody for being here. Let's see, announcements. Next month we have a presentation on the FileMaker admin console thing. We've got the Auto Enter Live coming up July 19th, 20th, which is kind of a virtual version of Claris isn't doing Engage. So this is so people can see some type of developer conference this summer. And then, of course, if you wait till October, there's the Pause on Air conference in Georgia. So those are some things that if you want to get involved more, probably the easiest thing is the Auto Enter Live. It's free, right? Price is right. So I think Soliant and I forget who else are putting it on, Geist. So anyway, some heavy hitters are putting it on. It looks like it'll probably be a good conference. So anyway, join those things. Join us next month, and we're glad to have all of you and look forward to seeing you then. So take care, everybody.
Thanks so much, Taylor.
Thank you, Taylor. Thank you all
Thanks,
for joining.
Taylor.